Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. This episode is all about fatherhood. We want to honor all the dads out there for all that you do and all that you have done. Welcome to BCBP Alabang Mission Go Live Season 3. Be Honest with Coach, Episode 5. Yes, hello again. I'm Coach Anthony Lozada, and tonight we hear about real-life experiences of honest men from BCBP Alabang here to share their fatherhood stories in this post-pandemic world. As we listen and hear about their challenges and successes as fathers, we may have different circumstances, yet we all have one big goal, and that is to bring our family to heaven. Yan. So, yes, that's a tall order, but kaya natin yan. Before we dive into the discussion, let me say hello to all our brothers and sisters watching us live and on replay, to all BCBP Alabang chapter members and other BCBP community members out there. All our family and friends, good evening and thank you for joining us for episode 5. Happy Father's Day to all our brothers and sisters, brothers and titos watching us live and on replay. Again, this Go Live online series is one way we continue to live out our BCBP mission of bringing Christ to the marketplace and winning the marketplace for Christ. Our discussions this season are anchored on the BCBP Be Honest advocacy. Be honest even if others are not, even if others will not, even if others cannot. Ayan. So, speaking of honesty, we are not expert parents here, nor are we expert parenting and relationship consultants. We are here to open our hearts and speak our mind as we tackle common parenting issues and how we got through it or are currently going through. So to all you chiming in to the discussion, live or on replay, please type in your insights, comments, and any questions. We'd like to hear from you. Now, I would like to ask our guest panel to join me in this broadcast.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Are we all here? So again, hello, brothers and sisters watching us live. Good evening, brothers. Thank you for being here, for willingly serving the Lord through this Mission Go Live episode. Now, before I start to ask you to introduce yourself, ako na muna magsa-start. I'm Coach Anthony Lozada. I'm a swimming and triathlon coach, and we own the Bert Lozada Swimming School, which was started by my father way back in 1956. I am a father to Kiona Marie, 22 years old. Our Shipu, yan, si Maui. And my wife, Eloisa, and we've been married for 27 years. All right. I'm currently a unit leader. Okay, so ikaw naman, Bing.
Yes, good evening sa mga kapatid natin sa BCBP. My name is Bing. I'm married to Dimples for almost 12 years now. And we have I'm 52 years old, but I have a very young family. My eldest is 11, is Shavi. My second child is a girl, is Gabby, who's 8 years old. And my youngest is Mati, who turned 5 years old last April. And basically, I'm an accountant by profession, but I'm spending time now in a hotel and resort company here in Manila as vice president for controllership. It's ikaw naman.
Thank you, Bing. But before I introduce myself, Bing, may question ako. Yung mga toys sa likod, yan sa'yo yan o sa mga anak mo?
Sa anak ko na binili ko para ma-fulfill yung toys ko. yung mga unong bata ako.
Very good, very good. Anyway, good evening, everybody. My name is MM Morales. I have been married to Annabek for 20 years now, and we have three children. I'm a BU father, Bayad Utang father, because I have three girls. My eldest is Alex, who's 19. My second is Anika, who's 16, and my youngest is Andre, who's 15. I'm working in our family business right now, and I've actually only done that ever since I graduated from university. We're into engineering services, and I've been doing that, as I mentioned, for 26 years now. And I've been a member of BCBP for 3 years palang, and I am also part of the music ministry for BCBP Alabang. Jeron,
Oh,
would you like to
thanks,
introduce
MM.
yourself?
Yes, good evening, everyone. I am Gerone Jimenez. I am and have been an IT professional in the financial services industry for over 36 years. I have worked for numerous local and multinational banks in the past, as well as tech companies serving banks. I'm currently a director of Euronet Worldwide. We provide electronic financial transaction solutions as well as payment services to banks, fintechs, retailers, and their customers. My wife, Det, and I have joined the BCBP through BCLP 50 and currently a member of the Santiago Action Group. I am a proud father of four young adults. Jaime, who is 29 years old and happened to have just gotten married last Friday. He works for Unilab. Juancho, who is 27 years old, is the Philippine representative of a venture capital firm called Open Space Ventures. Javier, he is 21 years old, who is graduating from the Ateneo de Manila University. He officially graduates in August, but will already start with the Macquarie Group in July. And Jacinta, my única hija, who is 17 years old and an incoming 12th grader at the De La Salle Sobel School. Coach?
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Jeron. Wow. Jeron, parang ano tapos ka na. So again, mga bros, thank you for being here.
Hindi pa.
Okay. So ito na, to start our discussions. Ito to anyone, to address to all the panelists, what would you say has been your biggest challenge today as a father, and how are you dealing with it? Or how did you deal with it kung tapos na yung iyong greatest challenge?
Sige, ako una. Ako
Sige,
una kasi
okay.
I just said that my son just got married last
Oo nga.
last Friday,
Exciting
di
yan,
ba?
exciting.
So, my biggest challenge as a father is actually letting go. Kasi my children are now young adults. I have been a dad close to 30 years. And I've gotten used to being in control of their young lives. No? So I deal young lives. So now, so this is now the challenge. But I deal with it through the realization that God has only assigned us the task of being caretakers of your children who have their own lives. No, so sooner or later they will leave the nest, and you will have to brace yourself when that time comes. So it was an emotional week for me in the recent. As my son has packed his stuff and over the weekend. So that's it. How about you, MM?
Yeah, well, when this topic was forwarded to us, and I saw that the topic was fatherhood during the post-pandemic era, it's actually extremely timely and extremely realistic for all of us, I guess, and especially for me. Because when you brought up that topic about letting go, um, as fathers, we have been tasked to care for and protect our family, especially our children. My children aren't exactly super young anymore. They're all teenagers. One is already in college, and two are soon to leave high school and eventually go to college. But the pandemic threw a monkey wrench in everybody's plans. Um, if the pandemic didn't happen, they would have followed the normal sequence of attending graduation balls, going out with friends, even late at night, which as fathers is a very tough pill for us to swallow. Because of course it's very difficult to allow your kid to go out and mingle in society. What more now that a pandemic actually took place? That your sense of control during the last 2.5 years were heightened to exponential 1 million times. You have to be more protective. You have to be more. I'd say I'd even go as far as saying be more paranoid. Now that somewhat the pandemic is kind of slowing down, things are becoming more manageable nowadays, and of course most people have been vaccinated, etc., etc. The challenge for me right now is if I can resume that sense of normalcy, or that original plan of, like what Jerome said, of being able to let go and let them live their lives as planned and as destined to be. But it's been very very tough for me, especially with me being the overly protective father that I am. That's been my biggest challenge so far.
Yeah, oo nga, tama. How
In
about si Bing kaya? Bing,
Ako naman,
ikaw.
baliktad. Ah, yung mga anak ko, ayaw akong paalisin ng bahay. Kasi
Reversal of role
nasa-
na.
nasanay sila nandito ako no? Especially nung lockdown talaga. Now, pag pupunta ako ng opisina, nalulungkot sila, umaalis ako eh. So, it's more now, it's about spending time with them kasi, I have the youngest family here, no? They require constant, alam mo yon, uh, talking talking to them. They have so many questions, madami silang tanong palagi. So you have to really, nag-uunahan pa sila magtanong sa akin eh. So, yun ang I think it's the most, is the best, yung pinaka-challenge ko in raising my kids, no, right now, is to provide enough time for them kasi iba-iba yung wants din nila eh. Iba-iba yung mga gusto nila sa para sa sa sarili nila. So I think that's the challenge for me to have equal.
They've gotten used to seeing you in the house during the 2 years, di ba? And then
Oh,
now
yeah,
Ayaw na siya
they see
palabasin.
you leaving.
Oo, ngayon ayaw nila ako. Like, pag nalulungkot sila, pag aalis ako, punta akong office. Why? Why you have to go to the
Yeah.
office? Like,
Sepang,
Pero kanina kanina
Yes.
na-mention ni Gerone about yung letting go, 'di ba? Like what was said, 'di ba? I mean, we are just stewards of our children. So eventually we will have to let go. Pero na-mention din ni Gerone yung control. Sabi ko parang control. Parang nung Terrible 2 nag-umpisa na yung out of control. So kasi kayo mga dads may strict, merong democratic, merong autocratic. How is control ba? Kasi ultimately, we will have to let go. And there will come a time na when they become teenagers, they will start to see themselves as parents also. Parang kwento ko nga sa'yo kanina, si Keo na ngayon, Dad, that's too much. You cannot eat liempo anymore. Your blood pressure, parang meron ka ng konsensya dito. So, how do we know if we're putting too much control or the freedom is too much also that they can do anything they want kasi they said we need freedom parang ganon. So how do you see, let's start with Jerome, your kids growing up, how did you some sort of control them so that they don't get into trouble and then they learn how to deal with the troubles of that life may bring.
Right. I mean, the parenting during the times of our parents were very different from ours. I think. I mean, as far as
Very.
control is yeah, as far as control is concerned, I remember. Yun nga, my dad, he would ensure that we form the habit, for example, of going to mass every 7:30 in the morning on Sunday. So regardless whether you went out on the Saturday night, you came home like, let's say, like at 3 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock. He doesn't really care as long as at 7:30 you're awake. We all go to mass at that time. So it's kind of very different during the time and now you have to in a way adjust your situation and adjust how you you deal with them, but you don't. For me, you don't control them too much. You don't. You allow them a little bit of freedom, but
How were your rules then, Jerome? With your kids growing up? Pareho ba nung sa dad mo na you can come home at 3 a.m. as long as you're awake 7:30? Yung mga parties, yung barkada, how did you
well, it's
deal with
easier
those?
for me because I have young adults already. I mean, but
Pero
growing up,
growing up, yung mga young adults na yan, they started from
I think it's very different here in Quezon in ano eh. It's very different here in Alabang compared to Quezon City. When we started kasi we started in Quezon City. We moved to Alabang in around 2008. And here going out was easier for me because I mean the kids going out was easier because when they go out they only go out to the houses of friends nearby, you know.
All right.
Unlike me, I grew up in the province, or if you grew up, for example, in the north, in Quezon City, perhaps you would be a little more worried because you don't know where they are. I mean, in Alabang, you kind of feel more secure. That's the benefit of living here because when they say they're going out, they're probably in one of the houses somewhere nearby.
Just within the village, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean that is the benefit, no. You allow them you allow them a little bit of freedom, but at the same time, uh, you let them know that you're worried. I think that's very more
Yeah.
that's more
Oh, tama.
important. I think
Yeah.
I think I just had a recent experience. This time with my 17-year-old.
Sige nga,
And my
kwento nga.
17-year-old, oo nga, one of her friends celebrated her birthday and she was going to she made paalam and she said that she wanted to do an overnight in Pansol, and I said are you sure? I mean, you let, I mean, I'm worried, but I let her know that I'm really worried, no. And then I found out as well that they were going to the person who is going to drive them is also her classmate who is also 17 years
No.
old, and they're all girls going to Pansol,
No.
you know. But what do you do? I mean, you have to trust also, no? You have to trust.
Yeah, like
Uh,
what I tell my daughter, I trust you. I just don't trust the people around you. Di ba? Kasi sabi, you don't trust me that I trust you. It's not that the people around you. Di ba? So what happened? Ultimately, napayagan din.
Ultimately, I allowed her. I mean, I
Kasama ka.
trust her.
Nagpansol
Yeah,
ka
no,
din.
hindi ako sumama. I mean, of course, I've been, you know, you can, as a dad, you cannot not stop worrying. You will always worry. But the thing is, as I said earlier, in a way, you don't have to control because the more control that you make, baka lalong, you know,
Yeah, totoo yun. Too much
bumiglas,
will
no?
also...
But you have to teach them consequences of their actions. I think that's important. Yeah, if they know their consequences growing up while they're young, and every actions of what they take has
Ayan,
consequences.
Bing,
I think
listen, Bing. To all
eventually,
the viewers out there, yan, listen, yan.
yeah,
Very important.
eventually when they grow up, they will they would know. So you don't have to teach that. They would know, di ba? Yun,
How
Yes.
that
about
was
ano? How about si MM? Let's see.
Actually, si
ikaw.
Gerone hit the nail on the head kanina because if you came from QC Gerone, I am still in QC and I've always been in QC. So I know where he's coming from literally. Alam ko kung saan ka galing because I am here right now. The difference kasi between the South and QC kasi it's no big secret. Yung North, you guys call it North here, but it's a lot tougher here. It's a tougher neighborhood, so to speak. It's not hindi siya, it's not like the South na puro gated communities. I grew up in an open community na we lived in the Scout area where everybody can come in and go out, and security would sometimes be an issue, and siguro as a result of that na-develop sa akin yung the hyper sense of being overly protective, and I carry it up to now, so much so that I actually started a security business. I started a home security business because I grew up fearing the outside coming into your home. So part of that, a big chunk of that got stuck within me, and I carried that through even through my profession. And in relation to my children, I don't know. This is somewhat of a side joke lang, but kahit papaano the pandemic actually was a cheat code for me kasi it extended my authority and my control and my protectiveness over my children, but not to my liking. Hindi naman ako yung nagdala ng pandemic, di ba?
Paano ba yung naging security business mo dyan? Paano ba ang ano dyan? Paano ba ang
Well, I
policies?
install and come up with systems for homes to prevent burglaries, to prevent fires and things of that nature. So I'm so I hate to use the word paranoid, but it's really the only word. I'm trying to protect everything as much as I can, and that has carried over even to my children now. When I was younger, when I would travel alone for work, sa sobrang takot ko being barged into sa mga hotels, I would design my own security systems for hotels in the States. I would put all my change on the doorknob of my hotel room so that when somebody enters, all the change will fall. And I will hear
Ano ka
somebody,
lang, ano tawag doon? Security conscious ka lang, di ba?
okay,
I
better
thought
words.
ang ibig mo sabihin sa security, yung preventing people from going out kasi may COVID dun sa labas, di ba? Yung
Well,
parang,
well, as far as my daughters are concerned, tama, coach. Ganun na nga.
Bing, what's your take in this? Kasi si Bing ang ano si Bing ang
I can relate
medyo
kay MM eh. I can relate kay MM regarding overly protected sa family. I have 16 cameras sa bahay namin ngayon, 16. Pati sa loob ng bahay may cameras. So,
kaya lang sa'yo yata ginagamit yung cameras na yan ng mga anak mo. Dahil asan na si Daddy? Asan na si Daddy? Ayan si Daddy.
for me naman, it's my children are very young and they look upon me for basically for guidance. What we have been doing together with my wife is to teach them how to make their own decision at the end of the day. And of course, whatever decisions that they make, there could be consequences if they make wrong choices, wrong if they don't follow the rules. No, like for my children, walang gadgets during weekday. As in, walang gadgets, walang TV din, especially during school days. And we can implement that. And they have been very conscious about it too. Whenever they go to other homes, they really follow the rule. They don't want to watch TV as well
Pero Bing, yung mga kids mo, do you allow them already to sleep over? At what age to Gerone and MM also? Ano bang age yung papayagan mo na sa, can I do sleep over at my friend's house? This is their address. This is the name of their parents.
Coach, funny you should say that. We are undergoing a sleepover as we speak. They're in the other room. They're in the other room right now. I have 5 guests here right now.
Oh, okay.
It's easier if they're sleeping over to your place rather than your.
Yes. We've never. I don't think we've ever allowed them to sleep in somebody else's house. They can always bring their friends to our home, but I don't think I've ever said yes to them sleeping somewhere.
Bing, magandang tip yun, Bing.
Oo. Ako siguro, I don't know. I haven't thought about it, no, kung kailan ko sila papayagan mag-sleep over. Siguro sa mga pinsan nila okay lang. Pero classmates.
Pero mas maganda yung security feature ni MM. Dito na lang kayo mag-sleep over.
Coach, on one condition, in-antigen ko sila lahat kanina.
Ikaw, Gerone, did you experience that? Your kids asking if they could sleep over?
But it's easier for me because my older kids are all boys. I have 3 boys and a girl. Sa mga boys, basically wala naman, your worry is very different. I think that your worry level is very different for your little girl rather than the boys. So I am like I'm probably experiencing that for the first time, the anxiety for the first time, because with my little girl, with my youngest. But with my older sons, uh, not as, probably not as much, but I know it's unfair. It's unfair to my daughter, but as a father, sometimes you can be overprotective of your daughter, but
Mhm.
probably your sons are different. You treat them different. You want them to make mistakes. You want them to learn. You want them to go through life understanding the consequences of their actions. So uh, the way you treat your sons probably are maybe different from the way you treat your daughter. Mas lalo na sa akin because bunso ang
Nako,
ang
bunso,
daughter
yes.
ko. So mas lalo na, 'di ba? So
Pero yung like Jerome and MM and Bing also. Kasi ngayon nga, we're talking about security, and si MM nga nagkaroon ng security business. More gadgets to play around with, just to make sure that everything's secure. But how do we exactly teach our kids to be security conscious? Kasi I'm sure even yung mga grade schoolers kasi nandyan yung minsan mawawala yung notes mo, may nagnanakaw niyan, may pre-pandemic, and then your kids are driving probably their own cars now. They have to be extra careful, yung mga bukas kotse gang, yung mga, di ba? How do you teach them to be security
Uh,
conscious?
for me, coach, there's going to be a lot of from ano pa yan from their youth pa lang yan growing up. For me, in our opinion, the way we raised our children, for us to be able to build solid habits with our children, there's a lot of explanation that needs to be done. There's a lot of clarification, giving examples. You just talk them through it as down to earth and as realistic as possible, and show them what's in the world around them. We've had the privilege of being able to bring our children to many places already, and we show them the various the different ways, the different cultures of different people, and of course comparing it to ours also, and how they should be acting within those different societies. Kasi, for example, we just came back from a trip to the States. Of course, the level of security that you enforce, or that you live with in the US is different from here. You can leave your belongings sometimes outside your hotel, or there was this one night, actually, I know my wife is listening, but I think this was my fault. I forgot to close the trunk of our car in the States, and I left it overnight with our belongings inside. But nothing got lost. But sa children ko na rin ang galing na if that happened here in the Philippines, pagising mo sa umaga, your car would be empty. Your car would probably not be there also. So sila pa lang at a very young age, they're able to discern na that in some places okay lang to, in some places it's not, and it's born out of the way siguro we raise them in terms of explaining risks, explaining consequences, the dangers, and how to avoid them, and how to avoid regretting your siguro your irresponsibility, your lack of safety consciousness.
Yeah,
And we've
mga
done that.
lapses mo. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've done that for our children day in and day out. So much so that growing up to the last day of high school, my wife and I, we personally brought and picked up our children. We have drivers, but we brought them and picked them up from school every single day of their lives during their entire.
Wow.
Wow.
Woohoo.
Oh,
Security conscious nga.
Our schedules revolved around sunduan and hatidan in school, basically.
So nagiging bonding session yun na rin yung sunduan, di ba? Kasi you're
Yes,
together,
yes,
pag sinundot,
definitely.
diretso ng
Yes.
kwento. How about for you, Bing? Yung I'm sure we have viewers with kids same age as yours. How do you teach them about security so that
well,
they don't.
first of all, yung mga bata pa yung mga anak ko. So, we always tell them, don't talk to strangers. That's the basic, no? And then, whenever you see someone who's just don't mind them. Like don't entertain them. If someone is talking to you, just don't entertain them. So yun ang palaging sinasabi ko sa mga anak ko. But like here in the village, we're so blessed that we are staying in the village. They can go out anytime. They can walk around, play around. That's not a problem. Uh, Again, it's always it's always teaching them uh, to determine if they are in danger or not. Importante malaman nila na uh, we teach our children that nobody can touch them. Nobody can touch them, especially in their sensitive parts of their bodies. It's a no-no kasi they practice, they have coaches for their practices. So that's important. It's always a conscious reminder for them that you always protect your body. So since they are very young. So I think
Although,
that's
Good. Yeah,
yeah,
gandang
I have
advice yan. Viewers, ganda ng advice yan from Bing. Galing. Thank you, Bing. Yeah, we have, you have,
no,
comment?
me, it's me, Jerome.
Jeron?
I just will, I just want to share that while we want our children to be aware of potentially dangerous situations, we don't want them naman to be walking around in eggshells, waiting for bad things to happen to them. No, uh, let me one situation that we've experienced when my second son was very young, was still in grade school actually. He was in Alabang Town Center, and he was in time zone playing with his I forgot what it is. It's a like a portable PlayStation. And may nagbudol-budol sa kanya. May nagsabi sa he was told that "Uy, you're here in time zone, bawal 'yan." And then you have to, I'm a security officer here, you have to follow me. Imagine, you have a grade schooler who followed this stranger because he thought he was a security in time zone.
Yeah, he was legit, di ba?
Yeah,
Legit na
and
security.
legit only and only to surrender his gadgets and only his phones and his cell phone as well and everything in it. So um it that experience was, as a parent, after it happened, it's nerve wracking, no. But these things, although they happen, they contributed, I think, to the character of my children. Ever since that time, I think this child, this son of mine, he became more. I wouldn't say more, dubious or
Hindi naman na paranoid.
hindi naman paranoid or but it opened up his eyes that there are different people in the world, and he knows how now, as an adult. I think he knows how to deal with it, and I'm more confident that he knows how to take care of himself.
Pero
It is
Jeron,
it is an unnecessary evil that happened in his past, but
Aha.
I'm just glad that it wasn't that serious. I mean, it could have been serious,
Yeah.
right?
So after that happened, Jeron, pinagalitan mo ba yung son mo na bakit mo binigay doon? Hindi
No,
naman yun.
I have not, because I know that he knows. I know that he understood what happened afterwards. I know that I know that experience will actually mold him, uh, actually for the better, and not really for no. I'm just glad that it did not escalate to
Yeah, at
a
least
more
gadgets
serious.
lang, di ba?
Exactly,
Oo.
exactly.
Okay. So, regarding when we worry, we don't know where our kids are, how they are. Si Bai, meron siyang suggestion. Meron siyang find my app. This is when the kids are out, they have to turn on their location tracking. Tapos if they don't want to turn it on, they are not allowed to go out. Or if they turn it off, they are not allowed to go out next time. Yan ang suggestion ni Bai. So yung mga viewers natin, maybe you have suggestions also na you can type in so that let's share this kasi yun lang nga, Bing, baka sa'yo naman gamitin ng mga anak mo yan. Dad, you turned off your tracker. Okay, so ano naman, another topic naman tayo about gender issues naman. In this modern age where gender and sexuality is more open and accepting of different preferences, has this become a concern for you as a dad? Yan ang next question ko naman. Anyone who's ready to answer?
Well, I have a sort of a funny but to my children not so funny situation regarding let's talk about gender.
Sige,
Kasi
share mo na, share.
if I were to put it this way, I am a male who grew up in the 80s and in the 90s. And you know how it was then on how this mga politically correct matters should be tackled and how you talk about it. And it's definitely not the same way it's being talked about right now. It's not the same way it's being handled right now. And I must admit, I am not very good at being politically correct when discussing this with my children, who are extremely politically correct. That's the age that we are in right now. So I actually get into trouble with my children, especially, she's not the one watching right now, especially with my middle one, who's very vocal about this. And I run into to problems when it comes to tackling it because it's going to be 3 against 1. It's going to be the 3 of them going against how I see things, how I view things. I'm trying my best to understand it the way they're picking it up, but it's a struggle right now kasi real talk lang. As I mentioned, I'm a male who grew up in the 80s and in the 90s. It wasn't a very tolerant it wasn't a very gender tolerant era at the time. And for me to be thrown into the fire like this with my own children, where intolerance seems to be the number one thing right now, it's three heads butting against mine. So, in as far as that issue is concerned, that's a challenge for me right now.
Yeah, that's part of parenting. We should be more accepting. Kaya lang ang nangyayari, the kids, yeah, we learn from our kids. Kaya lang nangyayari, they end up educating us because they're headstrong. And where did they get that from? Siyempre, mana-mana lang yan. How about Bing and Gerone, about the gender issues?
I think I will have the same concern as MM. No? I think we grew up in the same era, the 1980s to 1990s. No? Right now, confused pa, hindi pa naintindihan ng mga anak ko kung what's the issue about gender. Minsan, nagtatanong yung isang girl ko, he's a boy, why he's going to the ladies' room? Yung mga ganon, mahirap pang explain because they will not understand. But I think I will have the same concern as MM kasi nga iba rin yung pananaw ko. I grew up in the 80s as well and pretty much medyo iba yung pagtingin namin. No? It's always been I've been honest to Dimples about it. I usually don't want to talk about it, no? Kasi it's something that I'm not comfortable talking about.
It's an era thing, di ba?
Oo, mahirap eh.
Era natin yun.
It's not. Oo.
Almost mas matanda ako sa inyo, but I think I have a different.
Sige nga, Gerone. Sige nga.
No, it's funny because the speech of the father of the bride, alluded to that as well. Alluded to that when he said that yung daughter niya presented my Jaime to her dad, and nung nakita niya yung anak ko and how he makes kembot when he's dancing, sabi niya, ay, mukhang matatagalan bago ikakasal to. Mukhang lalaki ang gusto nito. That's what the father of the bride said during the during the speech. And in fact, even my wife, when my son was in high school, she asked my son if kung ano ka talaga, kung what is his preference, kasi kung alam niya magi-invest na siya sa salon eh, sabi niya. But you know, but it turned out hindi naman. I mean, hindi naman. The fact that he got married nga last Friday, hindi naman. I mean, but I have cousins. We were exposed, so I have cousins. I have relatives who are part of the LGBTQ community. Um, um, uh, I mean, I will not pretend that I understand them, but I do respect. We have to respect each other. We have different paradigms. We come from different. We have different lives. We grew up differently. I think I wouldn't judge. It wouldn't be fair for me to be judging that I know and I know what's right. You know, I think we have to have an open mind about it. And I mean that's only me. I mean,
Yeah,
that's my take
it's
on it.
yeah, it's hard to be judgmental also. Now, I'd like to pick up a question from Adi Galo. Ang ganda nitong question na to. Ang question is, what is the best thing to do if you are a first-time father? Yun ang question niya. Ako may answer ako dyan. First-time father, mag-aral ka how to change diapers. Yun ang ako yun ang, di ba? Yung kaya mo na hindi ka magre-react negatively pag open mo ng diaper and nakita mo, surprise! Kayo, Bing, kayo, Gerone, what's your
Hindi, you have to learn how to ito ako naman tip ko yung pagtitimpla ng gatas. This is a long time ago. You know, parating ang wife ko nagtitimpla ng gatas, 'di ba? When pag umiiyak.
Depende anong oras, Jerome.
Oo, kunwari 3 o'clock in the morning. Pag ganyan, parating mong tanungin, nasan ba yung milk? Nasan ba yung Tapos hanggang mainis yung misis mo, siya na tatayo, siya
Ayan,
na gagawa.
viewers. Naku, sana natutunan ko noon yan. Kasi ako noon, kami ni Eloisa, parang pag umiyak, early in the morning,
I could
sino
say
una
that
nakarinig? O ikaw una nakarinig eh. Di ba? So maganda rin yun, yung kay Jerome. Ikaw, MM, anong tip mo? First time
siguro
fathers.
when my
Mag-install
when
ng
my
security, ganon.
yeah. When my daughters were all very young, siguro just have that mentality in your mind. Just keep on repeating it inside your head na hindi ka pa pagod. Just keep on saying that whatever it
Mental
is,
practice yan ah.
hindi ka pa pagod. I guess, Coach, pag nagsiswimming, hindi ka pa out of air. Sige pa, sige
Yes,
pa.
hindi ka papagod, hindi ka mapapagod, hindi ka pwedeng mapagod kasi
Yes.
touch move. Di ba?
Exactly, Coach. Inaantok ka,
Oo.
maghahatid ka pa rin sa school. Puyat ka, maghahatid ka pa rin sa school.
Yun. So yun nga. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka pwedeng mapagod kasi ikaw ang haligi ng tahanan. Yeah. May
Yeah.
kanya-kanya naman tayong role pero yun nga kailangan unlimited supply of energy to serve our families, di ba? Tama yun. Galing. About
On a
CB.
serious note, Coach, kasi
Yeah,
me
sige.
and my wife, we just have this mantra of effort. To us, it boils down to effort. That's how we see it.
Nice. Effort. All right. Nice. Okay, Bing, ikaw. Tips mo sa mga first-time
Sa akin-
fathers.
Ang tip ko is enjoy yung discovery ng mga bagay-bagay na hindi mo alam gawin. Kasi if you survive everything, pag-uusapan nyo ng misis nyo 2 years, 3 years down the road kung paano nyo ginawa yun, matatawa kayo kung anong ginagawa nyo during the night, paano nyo patatahimikin yung bata. It's just yung hindi mo makakalimutan in taking care of your first child, especially during the night, no? Yung pinakamahirap na yung gigising ka kasi
Yes.
umiiyak, kailangan
Naku.
pwede. Yun ang pinakamahirap talaga, pero at the end of the day, it's about ano to, kailangan mong enjoyin yung pagkakataon kasi you will miss yung mga moments na yon na importante na maranasan mo.
Yeah. I'm sure
Walang
yun ang mga
perfect na
namimiss ni Gerone ngayon. Yung mga gigising. Lalo na pag ikaw pa maghahatid, di ba? Tsaka yun, prayers din yan, Lord, please provide me with the energy and the patience. And prayers answered. Bing, ikaw ang expert dito. When it comes to money issues, yung mga kasi finance guy ka eh, yung saving, spending, kasi I'm sure si Jerome medyo nandyan na rin. Kaya paano ba? Pag mga bata pa, yung mga kids, and then all throughout na pagdating, let's go to and then Jerome, how they teach finance to their children, to their teens, and to their sons na kagaya niyan, kinasal na.
Ako, worst ako diyan eh. Nung kinasal ako, wala akong pera eh.
Walang i-finance, walang iba budget.
Oo. Nagsimula lang ako mag-savings nung kinasal na ako kasi yung wife ko kailangan save. Kailangan ka mag-save. Kailangan mag-save. So, I think that's the most important part of teaching your children how to save.
Yung financial management din. Yung kasi save and then spend, how to manage their finance.
Sa akin is I have always been my motto in life. Huwag mong i-enjoy yung hindi mo kayang bilhin. You can't. Hirap mag-party, utangin mo yung pang-party mo, hindi pwede yun. Yung gusto mong mag-travel, utangin mo yung pang-travel mo, hindi nararapat yun.
Hindi na realistic yun, di ba? Magkakautang ka pa.
So, the thing is, always enjoy what you have. Kasi there are so much things to enjoy in life, especially when you are young parents, no? Hindi kailangan na gumastos ng malaki para
to the young parents out there, hindi daw kailangan gumastos ng malaki. Sige, Bing, tuloy mo.
and of course, mag-save, no? You put your money in some safe investment, no? Especially those that appreciate in value, no? Huwag kang bumili kaagad ng magagarang kotse, magagarang damit, magagarang anything. So, always invest on something that would appreciate in value. Yun yung hindi ko ginawa. Kaya ngayon, sinasabi ko sa inyo, gawin nyo. Nung binata ako, talagang inubos ko lahat ng pera ko sa sarili ko, no? Wala talaga akong savings. So, it's a gift na nakilala ko yung wife ko kasi siya talaga yung nag-push sa akin na hindi totoo yun na pag-accountant ka, magaling ka sa finance.
Parang yung kotse ng mekaniko, yun din ang laging sira, pero yung sa customer niya, di ba? How about ikaw, How yung age na ng kids mo ngayon? I mean, kids pa ba yan?
Well, they're still in their teens, but kasi especially with the age nowadays, and we were partially discussing technology and gadgets kanina, there will always be something new to be fascinated with. A new model of whatever it is you have is coming out next year, 2 years from now. And I always tell my children, and I also tell this, I say this to myself, na not everything has to be yours. Sometimes when you go around, especially kunyari you're in the mall, or you're even just online, you see something nice. Sometimes it's just nice to look at it. Especially if you just got the previous model or whatever, diba? Not everything has to be yours. Because I always tell them also na there will always be something to buy, but not always something to buy it with. So I say that to them over and over again. If they see something, a new model of a cell phone, new model of yung mga AirPods, yung mga ganon.
AirPods, yeah.
They have to come up with the latest ganito ganyan, the upgrades of ganyan. Not everything has to be yours. And sometimes things are nice to look at, even for myself. Kasi ako, I'm an extreme hobbyist, and I collect things, and I know. But I've also learned to discipline myself na once I get na the thing that I want, it doesn't matter much anymore afterwards kung merong something new that comes up. Kasi hindi mauubos eh. It will never end eh. It's a vicious cycle of buying and then letting go of your older one and letting it go to waste, etc., etc. And I keep on telling my kids na, for example, sa mga iPhones nila, you don't always have to own the latest model. Your phone is there for you to call someone, for someone to call you, to use it on the internet, to text or whatever. The next one will still do the same thing. So along those lines, I tell them that not everything has to be yours.
Not everything
Yeah.
has to be yours. Jerome, ikaw, anong advice mo dun
Ako,
sa...
my advice really is to teach your kids financial management while they're young. I'll share you a story. You know, my kids growing up, they didn't have allowance. Wala silang
Oh.
allowance going to school. We have what we call a point system. And the points, every time that they took a test, uh, there's an equivalent points, and then every point has monetary value. And because my kids naman, they have baon naman, so they have everything that they need for school. They have pang recess, they have food, they have drinks, but money, they have, in a way, they were earning for it at a very young age. In fact, they were very excited to take exams growing up because the exams had bigger points. It taught them the value of reward in exchange for effort. It taught them prudence in spending. I remember the time that we would go to Toy Kingdom, and then the older brothers would talk on what to buy and how they can share their points so that they can get something that they want. And then they would delineate what are essential, and they are prudent in spending. It also taught them how to negotiate. How much point, for example, there's an upcoming test,
Galing,
or a participation in an event that they would take, or whether it's academic, whether it's academic competition or extracurricular activity, or even errands, no, they would negotiate on how much points this would be if they achieve it. And I think from an early age, that was something that I wish to share to the audience on what by chance we have developed on our own in our family, and my kids grew up to be successful in their own way as far as financial management is concerned. I think my elder sons right now are even earning more than I am, than me. That's one tip
Yun.
that I really wish to share with you guys. So
Ganda,
while
ganda.
your
Si
kids are
Bing,
young.
si Bing
Sana
also
may
smiles
up.
kanina. Ano, Bing? Point
Sana
system na
may
ba?
up.
Pero
Sana may
magagalit yung mga anak nyo if they find
up
out I did this.
madali.
Well, I learned that from a Kumon outlet, Kumon school. There was a Kumon school when they were very young. Ganon, may points sila when they finish their Kumon papers. And then, may nakasabit na mga stuff and
Certificates.
how many points that they can buy, that they have to earn to buy that, to be able to get that stuff. So, based on that concept, we just followed it. After in real life, and until they grew up, they only started to get allowances when they were in college.
Oh, okay. Grabe, guys, ang bilis ng oras, naka 53 minutes na pala tayo. Ang ganda, ang dami pa natin pag-usapan. Anyway, pwede naman natin tong ituloy. We can continue this when we go to our backroom discussion. So, anyway, any final thoughts? I mean, learnings from the pandemic as a dad, new traditions you made or new values to emphasize. Para tips natin for other dads. Let's do rounds. Bing, you can start it off.
For me, it was an opportunity to spend time with my during the pandemic with my children, and since they are very young, no, it's an opportunity to really watch them grow each day, no. Uh, nung prior to pandemic, I usually go home late at night. So this time I was able to be with my children like almost 24 hours a day. So it was uh, an opportunity to connect with our children. Um, and that's basically the lessons that I learned during this pandemic is to really connect with your children, reconnect with your children, and make sure that you find time to be with your children. Yun nga, I'm always trying to find time to alam mo yun, have a date with my son, with my daughter, just to emphasize that we care for them. We want to that they are important they are important to me. So for those dad who was struggling to connect with their children, just find a moment, find a date to be with your children. I think that's you will be surprised how they will remember it, especially for those young ones. No, and I think that's the the message that I want to impart during this discussion to all those listeners that find time with your children and also with your spouses.
Oh, huwag kakalimutan yun.
Oh,
Nabol ka agad ni Bing, ah. Yeah, I
important.
remember I remember my brother would spend yung Thursday, may date siya with the panganay. Wednesday, may date siya with the pangalawa para at least meron silang time for each other. O, tsaka yun nga, yung spouse, wag kakalimutan. How about you, MM? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, very similar to what Bing said. I know that the pandemic has brought a lot of sadness and a lot of tragedy to a lot of families. So, with all due respect to those who have lost loved ones or have had a difficult time because of the pandemic, in our case, we have been fortunate enough to have not been hit by the virus ourselves. We've had some close calls, but more than anything else during this pandemic, it actually brought us closer to each other to the point that we seem to have gotten so fond of each other that we're addicted to each other already. I mean, we've been together every day for 24 hours a day. And even with that situation, our kids are all teenagers right now, but they still manage to, sneak into our room and sleep with us. And we still go out on vacations na kaming lima lang, and we can't seem to get enough of each other. But within that, even in that close quarter setting, what's been a fortunate development for us is that siguro the distraction of the outside world, maybe even friends, siguro have brought to our attention the way our children develop individually as young adults. I have a 19, a 16, and a 15, and they're all blossoming into who they might be in the near future, and we're getting a sneak peek into what's in store for them, what's in store for us, and what the future holds for our family. And uh, with the with God's grace, it's been very positive for us. We're very happy with the way things have turned out for our family, for our children, and for their future. This entire pandemic has brought us closer to each other, and yun nga, that's probably the silver lining into all of this for us. But for our marriage, you know how it is to be with your spouse day in and day out. You're sometimes you're on each other's cases, you're on each other's nerves. But this pandemic also, it's probably one of the best things that happened to our marriage, because we've never been closer, and to be perfectly honest with everybody, we've never been happier in our marriage than we are now.
I
All
totally
right.
agree. I totally agree. Although the pandemic has been cruel for most, it has for the most of us, it has been embarrassingly fun to be with the kids. No, right.
How about
Uh,
you, Jero?
my take is, it's always the cliche that the responsibility of the dad is also to provide, to protect and provide. No, I mean, even the birds outside, when you look at the window, they instinctively know what's the role of the mother and what's the role of the father. So that's a given. But in this day and age, I think the roles of the father has expanded. You have to be an enforcer when they're young. So you have to teach them when they're young. You have to be like Coach Lozada, a coach, a motivator, a helper, and a friend. I think you have to be their biggest cheerleader. I think that's very important because every child look to their dad for acceptance, for confirmation, and for compliment. You have to show how proud you are. Like Coach Lazada as well, you have to be a trainer, in life skills, no, for them to manage their. You have to be an example to show them how to manage good relationships, to be a good businessman or a good leader or a good Christian gentleman, and basically also be a counselor to them. I think it's important that they know that they can approach you, mas lalo na when you have kids as old as mine, that they can approach you every time that they have problems, and why they can get counseling somewhere else. But bakit hindi sa'yo? Why not with you as your dad? Well, they can use somebody else as a sounding board, but why not you as their dad?
Yeah.
Diba?
Dapat si daddy muna before anybody else.
Right.
Tsaka we really have to train them young. Sabi mo nga, trainer. That's like in swimming. It's best to start them off young so that when they grow older, they'll be safe and they can handle anything that's thrown at them. So thank you again to our panelists. We have come to the end of this episode with so many insightful stories from our panelists. Now my final thoughts naman, hearing all the inputs from our panelists, and they did very good suggestion and very good advice also to our viewers. To be able to raise children of his own is one of the greatest joys a man can experience. At the same time, it is also one of the greatest challenges. Well, the pandemic certainly brought us on many different challenges to parents, but I'd like to believe that it also brought on many blessings, like what our panelists just mentioned. Most unexpected of all is the gift of time. If only I had more time. If only I had more time. That's the common line that we hear a lot, not only from fathers, but from mothers as well, and from the children. Now that we experience all the time we needed, we realize that the enemy is not really time. It is what you do with however much of it you have. Well, the pandemic has reshaped the way fathers are involved with their families and their children. It gave them an opportunity to reflect on the limited time they had to themselves while cherishing the moments they might not have otherwise gotten to spend with their kids. We are reminded that the art of being present is so important in raising happier children. Strengthening our bond with them can only be possible if we spend more mindful time and meaningful time with them. But when we encounter rough patches in raising our kids, let's hold on to the example of this silent saint, Saint Joseph. He's the foster father of Jesus. He drew strength from God, hoping that trusting trusting in him alone will be enough. And let his fatherhood be our goal. After all, he raised Jesus well as a boy. Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and men. That's in Luke 2:52. So again, I invite everyone to like, follow, and subscribe to BCBP Alabang's on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Make sure you click on the bell for notifications. So see you again in the next episode. Be honest with Coach. Mission go live, go live. Okay.
Nice,
Pwede tayong
guys.
mag-continue kasi meron tayong hindi na natuloy na yung on flip side on the learnings na parang may question si Bai kanina. At what age do we empower our children, most especially in making decisions? Meron ba kayong insights diyan or answers para kay Bai?
Mine, of course, Bai knows my daughters. We're basically family. it's a different situation for me because I have three girls. Eh. I mean, not to sound gender dominant or whatever, but um, the decision making uh, ends up being mine and my wife's. Kasi it's a different environment when there are three girls. Eh. Parang they're waiting for somebody to lead them. They're waiting for somebody to guide them. And as a father naman, your sensitivity and your being not sensitivity, your being sensitive is heightened because you don't want a single hair on your children's body to be touched, to be hurt by anything, by wrong decisions, by opportunistic people around them, etc., etc. So as a father, if you have three girls, your overprotectiveness gets heightened. So when it comes to decision making, that's a tough one for me. If I had a son, kahit panganay siya, middle or youngest, he would probably be the leader of of my brood. But since I don't have a son, I'm forced to take that role.
For me
Sabi nga
naman,
nung
ako,
pag sa yeah, go ahead.
ako, as early as this young for my children, I make sure that they make their decisions too. So I give them choices. No, if you do this, this is the consequence. You make your choice. If you want this, fine, go ahead, make your choice. So we teach them to make decisions at the early age. No, as to
Eh, mga 5 years old, 7 years old.
what age you want them to empower. I don't. Maybe at the time that they can make informed decision, I will let them make informed decisions.
How about Jerome?
Well, it all depends on what decision has to be made. Eh. In fact, in one of the guide questions, in my our Father's Day dinner last night, I asked my sons, have I ever when you decided what course to take in college, when did you decide on that? Then they made me realize, Dad, it was you who decided. What do you mean
No?
I decided? Sabi ko, no, I didn't dictate what you were going to take. Sabi nga niya, no, because my eldest nga said, I wanted to take up architecture. And then you said that the reason why you didn't want, and then I said, are you sure? And then he said, no, I'm not really sure, but I think that's cool. Sabi nga yan. But the thing is, if you take up architecture, you will grow up to be an architect. But if you don't know yet what to take now, you take a course that will teach you the discipline. And that's why my eldest sons, they took up management engineering at the Ateneo. It was more of it's no specific career. Eh. There was no specific career where they would go to. In fact, like for example, my eldest is an ME, but he works in marketing in Unilab. But my second son, who's also has the same course, but he works for a venture capital firm. So it's very different. He's more in finance. So they would get to the point that they will decide once they are ready, just to make sure that the foundations that you provide them, I think, should be good enough so that at the point that they can make their own decisions, they've developed that foundation. Because if they decide too early, they might be like me. I took up electronics and communications engineering, and then I ended up in a bank. So, di
So you
ba?
don't really end up with the
I ended up in a bank. I mean, what is that? I mean, because I only went to take up electronics because I was fond of electronics. I was building all this. Uso pa nun yung CB radio.
yeah.
During that time, and I was building antennas. Our roof was full of antennas, and I said, I want a career out of this. But eventually, I ended up not being an engineer, but actually a banker. So there is no clear-cut decision on when will you allow them to decide. I think you have to. You have to guide them. When is it the best time for them to decide? They would make, if they want to decide what socks to wear at 5-year-old, then let them be, di ba?
Yeah, let them wear two different colors of socks.
Let them make the mistakes. That's what I'm saying earlier. Let
Oh,
them make the
yeah.
mistakes.
Okay.
so that they
Yeah.
learn.
Oo. And that kaya sama, Jerome, depends on what decision has to be made. It can be just picking a toy. Yung sinabi mo na point system. Yeah, that's really very good choice of decision with regards to piling up your points together. Now, itong naisip ko kasi si Bing kanina now with the pandemic na I mean everybody's going out, busy na tayong lahat. So how do we continue to prioritize our kids and our family? One is yung sabi nga ni Bing, make sure you have time for your kids, bonding. How else? How do you think how should families now or dads take the lead in making sure you have time for your family and for each and every member of the family at that?
Well, first of all, a balance has to be struck within yourself. As a father, as a husband, as a male human being, on how you divide your time. Of course, people are starting to go to work now. During the entirety of the pandemic, I did not step into my office for a single minute for 2 years. I'm running my own business, so I'm lucky enough to have been able to run it from home. But now that things are quieting down, vaccinations are in full swing. I'm mega vaccinated right now. So I have now the even my kids are boosted already. We have the courage right now to step out into the world again. So I'm starting to go into the office again. So gone are the mornings that they'd wake up and daddy is with them. I'm in
Oh,
the office now during mornings, but I'm taking it a little slow then right now. I go home right after lunch. When my work is done, I go home right away. My eldest is attending school na kasi in Ateneo they have the intersessions already. So they actually have to do face-to-face classes every other day. So gone naman are the full afternoons that I'm with my eldest. But and my two other kids are starting to see their friends as well. And as I mentioned kanina, I have a slumber party going on right now. So I won't have the youngest with us tonight in our room to make lambingan or to make harutan with in our room. But siguro in relation to what I mentioned about striking a balance, whenever you get that opportunity to still maintain your closeness and your familyhood, you always take that opportunity. Don't let those moments pass. Don't let laziness get in the way. Don't let fatigue get in the way of you having a solid relationship with your children, with your spouse. Parang the pandemic has taught us so many things, and one thing that it taught me was to not waste moments.
yan. Hindi ka napapagod to have those moments.
Nope,
'Di ba?
nope.
How about si Jerome?
Oops, I'm mute. I totally agree with MM. Um, in fact, I'm learning from the kids. Um, During our time, you think buying stuff would be important, but now it's more of the memories that you have with them. That's more important. I mean, in fact, we're learning from them when we travel. No, unlike when we were kids growing up traveling with our parents, yung priority mo is shopping, di ba? Pero the kids nowadays, their priority is not shopping. Their priority, in our last day, for example, in a trip, my wife, Det, and I would say, we didn't shop. So the last day we're going shopping, and the kids, they still want to go out and see stuff, see places. They want
Oh,
they want the
memories.
experiences. It's the memories and the memories that
Yes.
that is important to them, and I've learned that from my kids. It's not me, it's not them learning. They probably learn from me, but I'm also learning from them. I mean, that's it's wonderful
Yun
that
nga,
way.
they're the ones educating us now.
Yes, I believe so. I believe so.
Okay, Bing.
This one I learned from ano to eh. I got from John Reyes, no.
Si Jonathan.
Nung ano no,
Si
yung policy
kapatid.
niya. Yung policy niya kasi nung ng ano to nung siya yung chapter head is family first, no. Whatever it is.
Family first.
family first. Whenever kung meron kang conflict, family first. So I think that's what I've been practicing throughout my career, especially when I got married. No? It's always a family first, and you can always teach that to your colleagues, to your boss. Pag
Mhm.
nasanay na sila na it's family first, they will understand. So they will not demand
Yes.
you to work on an extended period. They will not demand you to work on a Saturday on a Sunday, unless it's
Mhm.
really important. So yun. So you teach everyone family first. Sa akin yun.
And you can never go wrong with family first. I'm sure yun din ang advice probably ni Jerome dun sa niya who just got married. Ako may natutunan akong tip dun sa isang parent sa swim team ko kasi during the pandemic, 'di ba? Lagi silang magkakasama. Eh ngayon, everybody starting to go out na. Sabi niya dun sa mga anak niya, mahal na ang kuryente ngayon. Isang aircon lang ang papaandarin natin sa gabi. Itong nasa masters. So ngayon, with 6 kids, ayun, nandun lahat sa kwarto niya. Gumawa sila ng mga tent doon. Ginawa nilang parang camping. Kaya, yun lang nga, yung mga bata daw nagrereklamo, dad's snoring is too loud. But still, kasama sa ano yun. Kasama sa camping yun, sabi niya. What if, there are insects that are noisy? That's practicing you to be able to sleep even with the noise. So, yun. Okay. So, again, to end our backroom discussion, thank you very much, Bing, Jerome, and MM. And I'd like to
Thank
end
you.
with, again, thank you everyone, those who stayed behind. And see you next time for Be Honest with Coach. Mission Go Live, Go Live. Yan.